Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to see so many familiar names in the list. I'm really glad that you could join us for this session this afternoon. I'm Rachel Phillips-Buck, VP for Student Success at Ferris Resources, and we're really excited today to be joined by Anthony Melchiorri. Hello, sir.
Hello, everyone. How are
you? Hey, everyone is very excited about this. Every client that I talked to was like, we need some expertise and insight on what's going to happen on our campuses in the fall. So I'm really grateful for you to be able to join us and share your expertise.
Thanks for asking me.
You what?
Said thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. If you guys have specific questions that you'd like for us to talk about, please chat those in the Q&A. And I'll be watching those and talking about some of those. Also, we're going to record this webinar, so feel free to send it out to other people who you feel like might find this insight useful. And we'll send you that recording so that you can do that really easily. So I want to start off really quick with a roadmap, and then I have a couple of pictures I want us to take a look at. So I want to do introductions for those in the higher ed market maybe who aren't acquainted with your expertise, Anthony. And then I want to tell you that this webinar is generating a lot of controversy. So I want to talk about it because that's always entertaining. And then we want to talk about clean and safe and some quick hits that we can be doing this summer as we're thinking about what's going to happen in the fall. So, you know, Anthony, something that you and I share is we're both from New York. So I have some embarrassing pictures to share of us both. Can I share them? Both, yes. I'm going to embarrass myself as well as you. Is that okay?
Go right ahead. I have 3 teenage children. I get embarrassed.
Okay, so I grew up in Manhattan and I went to PS 116. So this is me when I was in 2nd grade at PS 116 doing a little play. You can tell it's very...
My daughters, I thought, went to PS 116 here in Queens. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, do they repeat them?
What's that?
Do they repeat the numbers? Like public school 116 is in different boroughs?
Was it Queens or Manhattan?
It was Manhattan.
Yeah, no, it's, or maybe it was 114. Never mind, it was 114.
Okay. So here's me. Then we have a picture of you at PS 209.
Okay, where am I? Wow, you're good. You're good. Anybody pick where I am?
Yeah, look at that right there. I have to show you. I showed this to my 8-year-old daughter. She picked you out.
She
So
did.
you're not that different.
That head, look at that head. It looks like I just got off a spaceship. You know what's so funny is that young lady in the 2nd row, 3rd person from the side that I'm on.
Yeah.
She is the sister to my wife's best friend. And I didn't know until we were married. And she comes over to me at the wedding and she goes, "Do you remember me?" I go, "No." She goes, "I was in your whatever grade, 3rd grade class."
How funny.
And I'm like, oh my God. So that is literally her. And her sister remembered me as the person who was never paying attention. Shocking, right?
That's great. Well, here's our Manhattan, Brooklyn side-by-side pictures. We did okay.
You were pretty and you're still pretty. I look like a Martian with ears.
Well, I'll just tell you, I got in a lot of trouble for this picture because I was wearing my sweater. I was supposed to just be wearing my dress. And I got in a lot of trouble.
My tie is still perfect even when
it is perfect. That is awesome. So I will talk later as I introduce you about some of your hallmarks. But one thing we can say is that Anthony always has a perfect tie and a perfect pocket square. So I wanted to start here because I wanted to talk about just your career and your expertise and the things that you've invested in and I found really important. Can you tell me what this picture is and give us kind of an introduction to what you've done?
That is a picture of the famous bow tie floor at the Fontainebleau. I did the 5-star secrets there, and my favorite line, I just really felt it as I was walking through the floor. I turned to the camera and I said, "This lobby makes you feel like Frank Sinatra is your best friend and Marilyn Monroe is your girlfriend."
Absolutely.
And that is exactly what that felt like. As a matter of fact, in that hotel and in the club that's still there, Frank Sinatra threw a party for Elvis Presley when Elvis Presley came back from the war.
Wow, I did not know that. It is an astounding hotel.
Yeah. And you know what's great about that hotel? I'll tell you what's great. First of all, I found one of my dearest friends that I can't tell you who, but he is best friends with a very, 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 very big A-list celebrity that I may look like. and we may be doing a hotel very soon together. It's because I met him in this lobby. He was the bartender. And that lobby, if you look at it, it stands up, right? It stands up to this day. And it was built, you know, how long ago? And those bow ties still stand up. And that's what I love about this lobby. This lobby stands up. And see that staircase, that staircase to nowhere? You know about that staircase?
So tell me about it.
That's where young ladies would take the elevator up to the mezzanine level. There's nothing there but that staircase, and they would walk down so they could present themselves to the lobby.
Descending into the lobby. I love it. That's great.
They would never get off in the lobby. They would get off at the mezzanine and just make an entrance.
Make a grand entrance.
And that's like, to me, the hospitality industry. It's all about, you know, it's all about the glamour and the glitz and the comfort and just the feeling you get. So anyway, you could have picked a better lobby to show me.
Good. So when you talk about hospitality, can you help us understand, I mean, you're in the thick of it for the hospitality industry right now, but just in terms of your career, you've really worked hard to help struggling hotels kind of recover and come back to success. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. Matter of fact, you would never give me a good hotel. You'd only give me a hotel that's in trouble, because I would probably mess up a good hotel. And, you know, I went to Park University. I sit on the board of directors of Park University in Parksville. And I have 3 children literally in September, all in college. One's going in and 2 are seniors. They're twins. And so I'm in the throes of not only my industry basically on the verge of collapse, but also sitting on the board of directors and having emergency meetings about what does the normal look like for college students. And Park University is one of the best boards I've ever been on. And my children, like, Dad, what can we expect? How do we go forward? So I think my entire life has been waiting for this moment. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I was excited to be involved with your company, because this is important to me. It's important that we get the hotel right. If you saw my show today, I do a live show on LinkedIn and Facebook every day. And I went a little off the rails today. I got a little passionate. I don't know if you saw it.
I did.
I'm passionate about, I want to travel. I want to go back, but we have to do it right. So whether it be universities or whether it be hotels, we've got to do it right. What does right mean? Right means is you got to know what people are feeling, and every step of the way, every moment, you got to, what you're feeling good about, they may be feeling bad about, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I want to talk about the different voices that in higher education we have to consider. I do, though, want to make a bridge between what you're talking about in terms of hospitality, this idea that we are generous, we're receiving people, we're inviting them in, we're providing for our guests, and something in higher ed that we talk a lot about, which is community, which is this idea that we are connected together and we're in the same place and we're sharing the same space and we're working towards the same thing. And I think it's really helpful to say hospitality is such a valuable tool as we are building community, that this idea of how we invite each other in, how we're kind to each other, how we greet each other and we're gracious, and we provide space at the table and welcome others there, then facilitates this idea of community, which in higher ed, we're really, really always aware of and always trying to build. So I really love that bridge, that in our schools, this is what hospitality and community looks like. It's a little bit different in the hospitality industry, but there's a lot of crossover.
I disagree with you. I think it's exactly the same. I'll tell you why. When you move to a neighborhood and somebody brings a pie to your house or comes over, like in my neighbor, they came over with mops and brooms 18 years ago to help me clean my house before I moved in. So to me, hospitality transcends a school or a hotel. Hospitality is not a thing. It's a feeling. It's a heart. It's a mindset. I always say I don't like people that much, but I like making people happy. So hospitality is perfectly suited to me because, I mean, I invite everybody over to my house for dinner, but I want to make you happy. I want to be hospitable. You know, by the definition of what I do, I have to be hospitable. So it's when people come to my office and they say, well, I like people, that's why I bring the hotel business, I tell them to leave, because if liking people is not enough. You have to have a heart for people, because if you don't have a heart for people, you'll take it personally. If you don't have a heart for people, you don't understand that what they're feeling, you don't necessarily need to feel, but you have to empathize. And so to me, hospitality is a state of mind.
I love that. We're always talking to our schools about this connection, that it's not enough for you to just solve someone's problems, but you have to make sure that they feel seen and heard and like you're wanting to be on their side.
And again, I'm going to challenge that. If you're not solving people's problems, you're preventing them. I don't solve problems, I prevent them. If you understand and tap into hospitality, if you tap into your community, whether it be in a college or in hotels, you're going to prevent a lot of the problems because you have a hospitality mindset, you have a hospitality spirit, you have a hospitality heart. So you're going to prevent most of those problems that come up. If I had to solve all the problems that I prevented, I'll never do anything all day. I'll just be putting out fires.
Yeah.
So to me, hospitality is about thinking for your student or your guest or you're just a person that's coming over to have a beer with you.
So you're really talking about kind of upstream thinking, right? Like by the time it becomes a problem, we should have solved it upstream so that we didn't get to a place where this is happening.
We went one year in one of my hotels and we didn't have a bad comment card. And everybody thought I was lying. I said, just go online. We didn't have one bad comment card. It's like, how's that possible? I said, because we prevented all the problems the guests were going to be mad about. And when they did have a problem, when something bubbled up, it never bubbled up to a real problem because we fixed it. We solved it.
Yeah, I think that's great. A lot of times when we're talking about helping students, we're thinking about why are we in this position right now, right? So a student can't find their advisor to register. Yes, we have to fix that, but also we have to figure out why are they in this position, because there's something else up here that we need to fix so that we don't find ourselves here again.
100%.
So I love that. So can I tell you about the controversy going on with this session?
You know, I was looking forward to the controversy in the beginning because I like controversy. It's what I live. So what is it? I'm looking.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I would just like to lay out. First of all, we are not saying whether schools should open or shouldn't open. That's not what we're talking about. Schools are going to make different decisions based on where they are. We have schools in New York City. We have schools in Nebraska. There's a lot of different opinions about what we should be doing with schools. And so I want to just be really clear that we are not advocating to open or not to open. What we are saying is, here's some facts. 65% of schools currently are expecting to open in the fall. So that's just a fact. Obviously, that might change depending on what happens in the next couple of months, but the majority of schools are planning on opening. We have schools that have both a revenue and an expenditure crush, right? So they're not having, they're giving refunds. They're also having to spend money to move classes online. And they're also faced with the loss of a lot of economics coming in, right? So we don't know if students are gonna come back in the fall. We have really big schools that are saying, we're gonna lose $1 billion this year, or we are having to do hiring freezes, or we're going to have to lay off people. There's a lot of pressure on this industry. And I think everybody has kind of a concern about whether or not they open. And if they open, can we do it safely? So can you just talk about that for just a minute? We'll dive into the practical, but just your kind of reflection on that perspective.
Well, you know, like our schools, my children's schools, I'm hoping they open, okay? Because my children really want to go back to school, and I want them to go back to school. My daughter's a volleyball player. I want her to play volleyball. But you have to do it safely. So when they open or not open, that is a very personal question for that school, that board, that university, if they can do it safely. But if you do it, you have to, again, you have to prevent problems. You have to think of where you are. You've got to think about your campus. You got to think of every scenario. But I hope they open. And like I said, my children, one's going to in Manhattan, one is in Westchester, well, two are in Westchester, and one's in Manhattan. One is on 5th Avenue, okay, and 17th Street, in the heart of everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks with the tensions and also with the COVID. We were right in the center of it. And I'm hoping by September, they're back in school and they're back at Manhattan. But it's about overthinking every problem and looking at it 3 ways and hoping you have people around you that are smarter than you to help you guide you to that opening. But I can't say, is it safe to open your school? Because I don't know the footprint of your school.
That's right.
But we're opening hotels all around the world. We're opening hotels all around the country. And it's not opening hotels and having a plan. Hilton, Marriott, independent hotels, they all have a plan. They have a good plan, and they feel very safe. It's when people break the rules. What are your plans for when people break the rules? And that's a problem. And
Yeah.
how to clean after somebody leaves. Like I work with Cintas. I'm one of the spokespersons for Cintas. They're going into my university, and every single room in that university is being cleaned before next class comes in. Yes, it's a little expensive, but that's over delivering. That's solving a problem. So it makes people feel safe. Those visual cues right now are critical. Visual cues and service. You know, I say hygiene is the new luxury in hotels. Hygiene is the new luxury in the grocery store. You know, so if you're getting that right and you have visual cues, then you just have to open up and make sure that the students or who's ever coming to school, the teachers are falling in line of that standard. And if they're not, there's consequences to handling that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is a great case where we're saying you need to prevent those problems so we don't find ourselves going, oh my goodness, we've brought all these students back and we didn't think through what we needed to do in res halls or in
And
cafeterias.
also be really in touch with the students, because they may not tell you that, hey, you know, I feel uncomfortable that my person's not wearing a mask, or I feel uncomfortable that I don't know if my class is clean, or I feel uncomfortable with yada, yada, yada. They may not tell you that. So you need to find that out.
Yeah.
You know, somehow how people feel. One of the things I've always loved in the hotel business is the second TripAdvisor came into the fold, everybody was upset. I literally called all my housekeepers, all my staff in Lucerne Hotel 25 years ago. I held up the comment cards and said, no longer can you throw these in the garbage. I said, you can't throw these in the garbage. Okay.
Direct access to them now, right?
People in Europe, in Asia are going to know for a good hotel. I thrive on that. Like,
Yeah.
I love that somebody can criticize our hotel. There's a voice for people, because most people don't complain unless it's easy for them.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly true. So to that point, can we talk about, there's a lot of different voices in higher education. We have students, which, as you're saying, students are the ones who are going to have to come back. We did a student survey. Students were like, listen, I learned better in the class. I missed my community. I'm longing to be back with you. So we have students, and we have how we communicate with them. We have parents. And one of the things that I'm worried about is that if our schools don't do a good job of, like you said, visible signs of clean and safe, articulating what you're doing, is that moms and dads are going to say, okay, let's try it. They're going to pack their kid up. They're going to drive to the school. They're going to look around and they're going to say, nope, get back in the car because I'm really nervous because I don't see what they're doing, right? To keep you safe.
100%.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just higher ed. It's not just the hotel business. It's the grocery store. It's the bank. We thought in March we would be coming out of this problem, and by September it'll be a distant memory.
Yeah.
This isn't going away for a while. It may go through both terms of college. Getting it right and spending a little bit more money up front is going to make you money on the back end. If we try to not do this right and not show those visual cues and not be in touch with our guests or our students or our teachers in a real way, this is going to be prolonged, because this may be prolonged because we don't know if there's going to be a vaccine. But once you get it right, you know, I always say go slow so you can go fast.
Yeah.
You know, spend the money now so you don't have to spend the money later. You know, when people look at me like, you talk fast, you walk fast, you move fast, you do a million things. I am methodical in the way I run my business. I am methodical in the people I have a relationship with in business. The people I put my name on, I'm methodical. But once I do, I'm in. I'm done.
Right.
Like we have not in any way, shape, or form rehearsed this. I won't rehearse it. I refuse to rehearse it. There's something about your company that's important to me because my kids are in school, because my kids are going back to college, because it's in tune to, into potentially, listen, my kids aren't going to tell me how they feel all the time. My kids aren't going to, my kids are going to hide stuff from me. My kids have been lying to me since they can talk, right? Because all kids do. And my kids are great kids, but I lied to my parents. So there's got to be ways, and that's one of the reasons I love the community I live in, is because it's a small community and everybody tells me what's going on.
Yeah, that's good. And actually, as you're saying that, I would say for clients of Ferris, I mean, one of the ways you communicate to parents is you say, hey, we have software that's helping us keep track and check in and make sure we're doing the right things. And that's a thing that you're already invested in that you can tell people about. So I love that.
And it's there's some things you have to think about, and there's some things you don't have to think about in business. And I'll just leave it at that. And being in tune with your students or your teachers, it's not something you really have to think about, because everything else comes down to that. Let's go back to the word we used, hospitality. Everything comes back to hospitality. I use this in when I'm training teams. When a guest goes to a hotel room, the time they get to the hotel room, there's 5,000 points of service. 5,000. More, but I've counted 5,000. From everything from people's shoes, the way you look people in the eye, everything, right? The way you point, the whole thing. If you do that well, and you know Sally at the front desk is going to be there for you, you open up the door and there's an elephant in a tutu dancing in your hotel room. You call and say, "Hey, Sally, this is really cool, but I don't want an elephant, in my room because they made poop in my room. So can you please get the elephant out?" So Sally comes and gets the elephant out, and the guest forgets about it. If Sally doesn't do her job at the front desk, if all those points of service aren't perfect, you're giving a guest a reason to get upset and complain. Instead of thinking that was an amenity, they're thinking you left the door open and let an elephant in your room.
Right.
So our job is to have an insurance policy to prevent the elephant from being in the room, literally.
Which, Anthony, I love that, because one of the things that we've been talking with schools about this summer is that your investment in saying to students, "Hey, we miss you. We're trying to make it safe. We want you to come back. How's it going? Is there something you need?" That's actually laying groundwork for a successful fall for them to be able to come back, because you've been showing them, "Hey, we're committed to you. We want to make things right. We want to make sure that you know that you're important and that we want you to come back and be our community."
100%. And that's what it comes down to. Listen, we all just want to be, we all think we're tough, but when somebody says, "How are you?" in a real way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So something else that I know is true about you is that you have this strategic mind about, here's what we need to be doing, and let's be really thoughtful and methodical, but also that you have a lot of compassion and interest in boots on the ground people. So we have in higher education administrators making decisions about the financial health of the institution and what are we going to do. And then you have faculty who have to teach those classes, and you have student life staff and academic staff who have to actually make whatever the administrator is saying, they have to make that a reality. And so can you just talk a little bit about how sometimes that's a difficult relationship, and the perspective of boots on the ground people who are having to make these things happen?
You get done what you focus on, and that comes from leadership. So you get done what you work on, what you focus on, period. So if it's important to you, it'll get done. And what does that mean? That means you communicate three ways. You communicate in writing, you communicate in verbals, and then you communicate in showing people. And then you communicate some more, and then you communicate some more. In the hotel business, to me, 10, 4, and more is important. Meaning 10 feet away, you basically greet a guest, 4 feet, you say hello, and then the more is when they're walking away, you say something to inspire them. So we've done that in all my hotels, and our service scores go through the roof. And why is that? Because I focus on it. I focus on it. Do you think that happens the first week? No. You think it happens the second week? No. That means if I'm in that hotel for 2 years, that's all I'm focused on every day, is why aren't we greeting guest employees every single day? So what gets focused on gets done. If you implement this software, you implement anything in business, if you don't focus on it and you just think by rolling it out, and then in a week it'll all be done, 99% of the time, that's not true. It's not because people don't care. It's not because people aren't stupid. It's not because people aren't listening. It's simply because people are busy. And if it's, maybe you didn't explain it. Maybe you didn't really have buy-in from them. You shoved it on them. And the number one thing that I learned in my early career, when somebody said, "Anthony, you can terminate me, but you can't take my spirit," because I was taking the spirit because I wasn't explaining things to them. I was telling them things. And once I started explaining why this is important, then it's a little bit easier to implement. But even after that, you have to, what you focus on is what gets done. In the military, I've learned that time and time again. What you focus on gets done, but you got to focus on it. You got to be relentless. I'm a pretty relentless person, but people know that a lot of stuff's not that important to me. But the things that are important to me, I'm all in.
Yeah. Sorry, I just took a whole trip there as you were saying that about.
You look pretty inspired.
I was inspired. I was thinking about how all of these voices, students and parents and faculty and administration and boots on the ground people, I mean, at the end, we all do want the same thing. we all want to be able to be together in a safe way and to not feel scared and to go back to being connected to each other. And I think as I'm hearing you say that, I mean, part of the difficulty is when you don't acknowledge the fear and you also don't have a way to move forward. When you're not saying, I know everybody's feeling nervous and this is what we're going to do in order to be safe and be able to be back together, then people have to get louder, right? Because they feel like you're not listening or you don't understand or they're being ignored. So I like that idea of leadership saying, hey, we understand, here are the concerns, and this is the plan. We're going to focus on this, and then we're going to see some positive outcome to that plan. So I love that.
A part of the decision-making process. I learned that early on in my career. You got to be part of the decision learning process. If you just push things on people, say this is important, well, why is it important to me?
Right.
It's important to the student, but it's not important to me because I'm a professor or I'm a guidance person or I'm a coach. It's not important to me. If I don't win this semester or this year, I may not be here next year because our school is very competitive. If I don't get these scores up, in my class, I may not be here. So that's not important to me. And you know what? Kids today, I can't relate to them, right? You hear that all the time from professors. Like, when I was younger, I would never talk to my professor that way, or I wouldn't bring my iPhone and whatever. Things are changing. Today, as of March, the generation that 6 months ago we were talking about saying they're not listening, they're on the phone, they don't want a connection. They wanted a connection. We don't know how to connect to them.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
I'm not saying that higher ed doesn't. I'm just saying it's a challenge for everyone. Like my children, I tell them all the time, I said, if I was a 20-year-old in college right now, I don't know how I would feel. So I can't tell you that I understand how you're feeling. All I can tell you is I think a 20-year-old today, those are the people I can literally get crying about. Those are the people I worry about the most. My daughter graduated high school, can't have a graduation. She wants to go to something called the prom house this weekend. I want her to go. I want her to have that experience. I want her to do things that I don't want her to do in front of me. I want her to go and just let loose for a couple of days because she's a great student. She got a scholarship in volleyball. She's a great kid. I can't let her go because of the pandemic. Other parents are letting them go. I can't let my kid go because of the pandemic. I feel terrible about that. So these kids are going to get stronger because all this stuff has been wiped away from them. However, they're not going to talk about it. So you've got to be connected to that coach. You've got to be connected to that teacher. You've got to be connected more than ever. And before we ever had a conversation of me being involved in your company, that's all I cared about. I must ask you 6,000 questions. I don't give a crap about anything else. All I care about right now is cleanliness and connection. Those are the only two things I care about in the hotel. I don't care about even service standards. I care about cleanliness and I care about connection. And that's what I care about in my kid's school. I want my kid to play volleyball. I want my kid to get an education. And I want my kid to feel connected. That's all I care about. If they get the best education, I hope they get a good education. They don't have to go to Harvard. I just want them to feel like a human being again.
Yeah.
If they're not feeling like a human being, I want somebody to catch them.
Right. And I've heard you say many times about this generation, they are going through something right now that we can't understand. It's difficult for us with our mature brains. What is it like for my daughter who's in second grade and your daughters who are in high school and college? We can't even imagine.
I had to take myself out to the beach the other day and beat my own butt in and yell at myself because it was a lot. There was a lot with my children and my business and just so much going on. Thank God it's good things in my business because we're so busy. But with my children and everything else, it's like I had to take myself out to the beach and yell at literally yell at myself to get my head wrapped around again. What are kids dealing when they don't have the experience I had, when they don't have the wherewithal that I have, the people around me, my mentors, my leaders throughout my years. So I would hope to God if they're in school that there's a mechanism or people around them to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate your heart for students. I have watched many hours of you, so I feel like I know something about your character. But I'm excited because I think you are so good at all of these things. Just saying we need to be excellent in everything we do. We need to serve. We need to have a culture of service. We need to solve problems. We need to use our resources well. And then also where we'll spend the rest of our time together, how do we make things clean and safe? This partnership's really important to me because I know that you have a lot of integrity and you really care for the most important things in life. And so I'm grateful to be able to introduce you to our clients. So let's jump into clean and safe because it's the question that everybody is trying to answer. And here's kind of the guidance that I have. And then I just want to hear what you have to say about whatever you want to say. I have a couple questions for you, but as we're thinking about returning in the fall, residence halls, classrooms, cafeterias, what are the things we should be talking about? What are the things that we should be doing? How do we have that physical evidence so that when the mom comes to campus, she says, I can see that my student is going to be safe here. Give us some insight on what we should be doing as we think about a fall.
I'll tell you one of the things Hilton's doing. Every single door of every single hotel room in the world that they run, there's a seal now, a sticker on the door. So they open that door and it says sealed or sanitized for your protection, right? So if I had a classroom, I would have a sign every time that door opens before the class starts saying this room was sanitized for your protection. Now you're saying to me, well, Anthony, I can't sanitize every classroom. It's impossible. Well, there's chemicals out there that once you clean it, you seal it. So once it's sealed, it can go for 90 days without it being infected. It would literally prevent the virus from spreading. So there's chemicals, there's electrostatic guns, there's Cintas who does service those classrooms. So there's many ways, and then having signage to tell people that this has been cleaned, it's been sealed, and this is what I have. And not only signs, but videos and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, and be where they are.
Yeah.
Where are kids? Don't be where I'm at, be where my kids are at.
Yeah, that's right.
My kids don't know what Facebook looks like.
So if you're thinking about crafting the message both for students to feel safe and then for parents to feel safe, what should we be telling them between now and fall about what we're doing or what they can expect or what our...
I think the first thing is we're doing our best. This is what I would do if I was a provost or president. I can't tell you 100% that I can protect your children against anything. Crossing the street, crossing the campus, God forbid, tripping down the stairs, being next to somebody that has COVID. There's no guarantees in life. What I can tell you is I work 24/7 making sure that every single child is treated like my own child. That every single child, every single student, every single adult in that hotel or that college is treated the way I'm bringing my family, my 97-year-old grandmother in to take a class. Okay, that has a respiratory problem. That's how I'm treating the classrooms. That's how I'm treating the safety. There's going to be physical cues. There's going to be visual cues. There's going to be all kinds of cues. There's going to be all kinds of policies. And there is nothing more important in my life than keeping your kids safe, period, end of story. And if I don't, please petition the college to have me fired. Like, that is like, you have to go all in. I'm an all-in guy. There's like, I want my students. I'll give you an example. One of my kids' schools, they haven't sent me a damn thing all summer. One of the most expensive schools in the country, okay? And they literally sent me a letter to donate to some charity. They did not once ask me if my daughter was okay, ask if I was okay, ask how you doing. They asked me for more money for a charity that has nothing to do with my child. Yeah. And not that I want to give to charity, but really, now's the time you're going to ask for charity before you even say, how are you?
That's right. Yeah.
If I wasn't a senior in college, I'd say maybe we should think about a different college.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So again, like, we see you, you're important to us first. And then here's what we're doing to try to make sure that you're safe. And we are treating this like our loved ones are going to come back and we want to make sure that everything is well done. I think it's an interesting point. I was talking to a school the other day and they were telling me they were replacing all their filters with the higher like HEPA quality filter, and they were doing all this stuff. And I said, well, when parents come, how will they know? And they said, well, they won't. They'll have no idea because it's a filter. It's in the ceiling.
You have to have a visual cue.
Yeah. So can you talk more about kind of what those might look like and how they might?
And you know what's so interesting? I've never done this before. but something just happened. So just hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. I think I have a little bit of an emergency to deal with.
Oh, okay. Well, let me talk about the visual cues. So if you think about, if you are doing things like replacing filters or putting in UV lights, which we'll talk about a little bit later, those are things, first of all, this summer you want to be telling students and parents that you're doing. And then also putting labels. For example, if you've replaced filters, you want to put a label that says this filter, this air vent has this kind of filter, and here's what it's guarding against and sorting out, and those sorts of things. But those visual cues, so that when somebody looks around, we'll be able to say, oh, I can see that they've done this and they've done this and they've done these things, I think are really important. I think you're muted. Hold on.
It's so funny. A kid fell off a bicycle right in front of me, and I thought maybe it was one of my kids screaming, and he's fine. Oh, she's
sure.
fine. But I was like, wow, that was weird. So sorry about that.
It's live, you never know what's going to happen. So I was just talking about visual cues, right? And being able to see those clearly.
Right. And it's everything right now. When you saw Delta come out with electric static gun and they were spraying down their plane, I'm like, I'm a Delta fan. I'm going back on Delta. I'll get on a plane tomorrow. When you see Hilton having a seal on the door, that you know no one else has been in that room except the last person that was cleaning that room. And they sterilized it. So visual cues are everything. That's the first thing you have to worry about. The second thing you have to worry about is visual cues are everything. And the third thing you have to worry about, because that's the way, when you go through, and you know how many people I talk to on a daily basis now on my show and my clients, I got on a plane and I got in the cab and the guy had Purell and he had glass up and he had a mask on. I felt so safe. And then I got in the airport and they checked my temperature and I got on the plane. Everybody had a mask on. They had the center seat. Everything was good. And then I get off the plane and the Uber he had a mask on. He gave me Purell and he was so kind. He was nicer than I've ever experienced. Then I go to the hotel and everything's touchless. Everything's on my phone. And I walk in, there's a seal on the door. I get in, I felt so safe. It was like, wow, I'm back to traveling. Not once did they say everybody was nice to me or things were better. They just said, I felt so safe.
Yeah.
I cared about my safety.
It's the fundamental need, right? Like if I'm sending my kids somewhere, I want to know that they are going to be safe.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Everybody has 7 needs. Every single one of them, whether you're rich, poor, whatever background you're from. And the first couple are safety, security, food, and water. I don't care where you're from. And that's where we're back. We're back to those are the needs. And oh, by the way, I hope my kid gets an education. You know, this year it's about, I hope they get educated and I'm sure they'll get a good education. But right now it's about making sure they feel safe and not only safe, but reconnected.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do want to talk about that a little bit. I do want to come back to some more practical things that our schools can do, but I appreciate you have been very consistent in saying we have to talk about how we feel connected to each other when everybody has a mask on and we're not allowed to be close to each other. And so it's like you were saying the other day, we're not designing residence halls or hotels to feel like hospitals. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. We have this other element, which is we want you to be safe, but we also want to be hospitable and connected to you. Can you talk more about that?
It's like I said, reconnection. We forget there's a mask on if you're really connected. If my daughter's playing volleyball, there's a mask on. I'm going to forget there's a mask on because she's playing volleyball. So it's you have to forget it's on. You have to forget that we're in COVID. You have to forget that, and you have to put people in positions to make that feel like all of a sudden, are you going to say, okay, you can't have one-on-ones with your guidance person anymore because you can't be within 6 feet? Well, there's a way to do that safely. And, you know, whether it be out in the park, whether it be out on the grounds, or whether it be in their office 6 feet away, where you just make it easy. And sometimes in those situations, you don't have to have a visual cue or a mask. You don't have a visual cue on a sign. You just open up the door, you have the seats far apart, and you social distance without even talking about it.
Right.
You know, my friend came over this weekend for the beer. First time I had somebody in my backyard, and I just moved my chair away further. He had no idea. So when he came in, there was a beer there, so I didn't have to get close to him to give it to him. There was a water there. And when he sat down, I said, man, sit down. He had no clue that was pre-prepared.
I really love that. I think there's a lot of room for that in our schools where you're setting up space where we don't have to talk about, hey, don't worry, we're 6 feet apart and I'm this and this, but we're just creating a space that is safe, that then students can come in and be focused on whatever your advising appointment or whatever, instead of the like rigmarole of, okay, are we safe? Is everything okay?
Right. And I think the first thing you have to do is you have to understand that everybody's in this together. Parents, students, faculty. Your job is to do everything you can to try to keep people safe. You cannot do it 100%. Everyone's got to chip in, including the student, including the faculty.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to teach my children. And that's why I want everybody to start moving. Move, but like don't come in the grocery store and be 3 feet in my space without a mask on.
Yeah.
I'm going to get upset. Right? So everyone's got to do their part.
So can you talk, we were talking about visible signs of cleanliness, the idea that you are cleaning classrooms, that there are ways that you can do that so that it lasts for a long time. A lot of our schools are talking about moving students to single occupancy. And so I'm thinking about, as parents and students are coming and checking into their room, what should that experience be like for them so that they have the clear visual cue and also feel like you've prepared this and it's a safe, clean place. So they're checking into their dorm.
I think the first thing you got to do is you got to do it before they get there, right? You have to be in connection with them through a video or something to say, hey, can you go to this link? And we want to talk to you. This is what it's going to look like when you come to campus. This is what we're presenting. You have any questions before you come, please let us know, and we'll address those questions. And if you think we could do better, we'll do better. You know, my daughter just found out on her volleyball team, the person she thought she was going to dorm with, she's not dorming with, single dorms. That's it. And my daughter's very upset about that. What they did was the team sent care packages to each other. So if you were going to be my dorm mate, now you're not, the coach had them send care packages to each other. Mm. And that made my daughter feel a complete connection. So I think I always say even the hotel, before you get there is when you have to make that connection.
That's
and then
right.
when you get there, again, it's about showing what you're going to do for your student, show it to me. If I get there and all of a sudden you're walking me into a dormitory and you're not doing things to have all the other parents separated, if you're not making it mandatory for the other parents to wear masks during that, because we don't know if we're going to bump into each other just because maybe the hallway's a little bit busy or whatever. If you're not doing that, then that's going to tell me, if you're not doing it for me, you're not going to do it for my kid.
That's right. I also like telling people what to expect beforehand, because your anxiety ramps up when you don't know what to expect, right? So if I don't know what it's going to be like when I get there, I just feel more and more anxious, which puts me in a state where then I can't even hear what you have to say by the time I get there.
And then if you do see something that's wrong, you immediately say, aha, I knew it. Instead of, if you showed me how it's going to be and it wasn't, well, your best intention didn't happen, but I knew you had the best intention, so maybe I'll mention to you, hey, on the video, you said you were going to do this, that, and the other thing, and you didn't. Oh, you know what? We didn't see that. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. So again, you're still going to be upset and nervous, but you're not aha.
Right.
You know, I take the aha out.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself on the same team with them, right? Instead of them feeling like I'm trying to figure out if you've done what you said. Can you also talk about, so all of our schools have cafeterias. They're gonna have to figure out how to do that. It's similar to the hotel business in terms of breakfast and that sort of thing. Do you have any practical guidance for what schools should be thinking about with cafeteria?
Well, what we're doing in the buffets and when you're coming back for a corporate meeting is there's a lot of grab and go. So in hotels, there's going to be grab and go lunches. So you can go back to your room, or there'll be a round top of 10 that's now for 5 people. Okay. So I would imagine cafeterias around universities is going to be this kind of same thing. It's maybe you'll have different hours. Maybe you'll have extended hours. You'll have less tables with, instead of 10 seats, you'll have 3 seats or 4 seats. One of the things that we have to realize, I think, and this is part of telling students and parents, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to go into a cafeteria and you're going to see another human being. And that human being may get in your space. We're going to do everything to mitigate that. And one of the ways we mitigate it in the hotel business is not through building walls and just plastic. What we do is we put planters and we put tables and we put couches. So you kind of make a maze where they don't even know that you're being socially separated. You do it automatically.
I like that, because it's what you're saying about set up advising chairs so that we don't have to talk about it. We've just created this environment where you're safe and it's not at the top of your mind. Hey, avoid that person. Don't go there.
Don't put, like, if you're used to put rolls out in a basket, don't do that anymore. Okay, put them behind the glass and have somebody, give it to them, maybe in a bag.
Yeah.
There are things like condiments. Okay, maybe you don't leave all the condiments out. Okay, because maybe somebody's really, worried, and God forbid somebody sneezes on a condiment. Who knows? So think of everything. One of the things I said is, like, I'm not wearing a mask because I'm really afraid of anything. I'm wearing a mask because I sometimes don't know when I'm going to sneeze. It just happens. Right? And so I don't want to sneeze and then, oh my God. Because when somebody used to sneeze, it was disgusting. Now people feel it's deadly.
Absolutely.
So you're saying, oh, I have to take condiments out now? It's not. No, just if you're working on the lowest common denominator, meaning the problem that no one really cares about, one person cares about that. In the hotel business, I don't basically think about my hotel for me. I think about it for the person who's 10 times more intense than me, because your problem may not be what I'm worried about. It may not be what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
But if I worry about,
I was just trying to imagine somebody who's 10 times more intense than you. I couldn't. I was having a hard time with that one.
All right, believe it or not, there are. But there's some things that don't bother me. Like I don't know. Like, do I wipe down my seat every time I'm on a plane? No. Do I wipe down the tip? Now, sometimes I do, depending on the airline, but I don't. But what is really important to me is I can't sit in the middle seat. So I choose a ticket that's maybe a little bit more expensive, or an airline that has a middle. I can't physically, I will be arrested. I can't sit in the middle seat. I start to get claustrophobic and I start to have panic attacks. I can't sit in the middle seat. Somebody else, like, I have friends that can sit in the middle seat, that's this big, and be on a 12-hour flight, get off and feel great. So if you think about your university, your college, your hotel, and you think of every little detail that can bother somebody, you're going to get it right. And people say, well, Anthony, it's a lot of work. Well, yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's right. Something else that that made me think of is that, in the same way that we have schools that might be in New York City or in Nebraska, right? And so you have a different, like, how Nebraska's experienced the pandemic is really different than how New York City has. But also this idea that you have people coming to Nebraska who might have lived in New York City for the last 3 months, right? So their experience and their threshold is very different than where they're coming. And so they may be coming and saying, why aren't we wearing masks? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? I'm coming from a place where everyone's doing that, and it's been really bad. And so part of, I think, the thing to consider with your students is, if they are coming to your university from a place that had a lot of struggle or a lot of suffering because of COVID, those will be students who will be more sensitive to what's going on in your campus.
If you look at Arizona right now, Arizona got the memo about New York, right? New York, everybody got the memo. And now New York, we had 40 cases yesterday. Okay, 40. We had 7,000 5 weeks ago. Now, per capita, Arizona has more cases than any state in the country. Okay? They're getting hit really hard. Their hospitals are filling up. They didn't pay attention. So now the people in Arizona, if I would have went to Arizona and I'd be like, nobody's wearing a mask, well, guess what? In 2 or 3 weeks, people are going to wear a mask. You've got to standardize the I keep saying hotel, the college for that. Like I said, the lowest common denominator, meaning the person that's scared the most. Okay, you've got to focus on that. And then the people that don't want to wear a mask, you got to explain to them why they have to wear a mask. And if they don't want to wear a mask, listen, there's choices. And unfortunately, you may lose a couple of students because they're like, I'm not wearing a mask. Or I feel uncomfortable with everybody's wearing masks. My professor's wearing a mask. And you can't please everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's another thing that's really important to me. Really, really, I didn't mean to interrupt you. This is really important to me. And I try to teach my teams this. I am not here to please everyone. I'm here to make good common sense decisions, to make as many people happy as possible. Other people are going to choose to be somewhere else, and that's okay, because I'm going to keep the majority of people comfortable and safe. I just had somebody post on my Instagram page. I keep posting something every single day on my Instagram page that's important to me. And they're like, oh, again with this, you're getting boring. I deleted them. I was like, you know what? I'm sorry I'm getting boring. This is important to me. Racial diversity is important to me. I'm sorry that it bothers you. then don't be my fan anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so I'm not looking to make everybody happy.
Yeah. So I like that, because I think the tension is, how do we plan for the people who are going to be the most sensitive, and also understand that we're making common sense decisions that are trying to keep people safe, and not everyone's going to like whatever the decision is that we make. I think that that's generally true.
And that's just the way it is.
Okay. I have two more questions for you. The first one is, can you talk one more question?
I'm just kidding. You get three. I'll give you three.
I get a bonus. Okay, so the first question is, what is your advice for how schools that have community bathrooms and residence halls handle that?
Well, I think, again, they would know better than me because they're, you know, they're in this business, but you have to have schedules. And you have to have, again, obviously you can't have schedules for using the toilet, but maybe showers and things like that. I know in some men's rooms in hotels, when you go to the banquet floor, they have some urinals that are closed. They have some stalls that are closed. So again, you're going to have to deal with that. And there's going to be people that wait. There's going to be people that are frustrated. Maybe if there's a capital, like I'll give you an example, MGM, you walk in and they've literally plumbed sinks. So you walk into an MGM hotel, at the front door, there's a sink. A beautiful 5-star looking sink, but there's a sink to wash your hands. So put capital in, maybe you have, you take a dorm or something and you put another bathroom in. You know, there's workarounds, but not paying attention to, this is the most important thing. Not paying attention to it is not an option.
Right.
Well, this is what we got. Well, no. This is what we got. We can't do it. No. You can't not do it.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out. And there's always a solution. It's just sometimes more solutions are more painful than others.
Right.
You think MGM wanted to spend $1 million on putting sinks in their lobbies? No. But they figured it out because they know a person like me would want to see that. There's a hotel in Vegas where my partner went. I couldn't go, but he went the day Vegas opened. 7 hotels he went to. The hotel he would stay in is the MGM's and the Wynn. The hotel he wouldn't stay in is the Cosmopolitan. Okay, and guess what? In the Cosmopolitan, they're all over the news saying they're doing it wrong. I don't want to be the president of Cosmopolitan, but I'm not blaming his employees. I'm not blaming his guests. I'm blaming him. It's like everybody else got the message. You didn't get the message, and you're like you're back to where it was 4 months ago. So he's gonna get hurt. And colleges, universities, and hotels that don't pay attention and say, well, the problem is too big to deal with, then you've got to make some other decisions or maybe open.
So, you know, as you were saying that, it just struck me that I think an advantage that colleges and universities have is that they are in a position to be able to ask students to help. So we could say to students in a residential bathroom, hey, we have peroxide or we have whatever. When you're done, will you spray down the shower, right? It's not as much for a hotel, like their responsibility. They're not asking guests, will you clean your bathroom, you know, before you leave. With students, we can say, hey, wipe down your table. Hey, spray this in the bathroom. Do these sorts of things to keep your community safe. And I like that language to be able to say, we're trying to protect each other and be careful of each other.
And the more things you have, like I'll give you an example. I have a gym that I go to that unfortunately is closed and it's never opening again because of financial problems. So the owners couldn't open it again after COVID. But then I go to the Y, and the Y has sanitizing cloths all over the gym since the day it opened. Every single time I take a piece of equipment, I wipe down my piece of. They didn't ask me to, but everybody else is doing it. Right. My gym that I used to go to every day, they didn't have it. So I didn't do it and it didn't bother me. But when I go to the Y, and I immediately do it because they trained me to do it because those sanitary wipes are everywhere.
Yeah, I like that. It's just, again, it's a subtle message like, hey, here, these are the things that we do to take care of each other.
You're going to feel silly when you don't because your friend did it.
Right. Okay, one more question, and this came from a client the other day. Can you just talk very briefly about UV lights and how they might or might not be helpful to schools?
Well, UV lights, there's a couple things. One, UV lights in air handlers are the thing now. Like the MGM built their hotel. They didn't even realize it until this. But when they built their hotel, their HVAC system had UV lights right at the air handler. So as the air went in or out, the UV light killed it. So UV lights are important to kill that bacteria, But then what happens if it gets contaminated again? That's why you need a system, whether it be a service where every single classroom is being cleaned every single time, whether it be a chemical that bonds that not only sterilizes it, but bonds it where it's protected.
Yeah.
So there's different, like getting with a cleaning company, like hotels are partnering with, not universities, but with hospitals. Would be NYU, would be, and doctors, and they're saying, how do we do this correctly? So if I was a university president, I would have a hospital attached to my university telling me how to do this.
I love that. I think that's the place where we find the experts in this, like who already knows how to do this, and then have them come in. And there is, I think, a sense of community with people wanting everyone to be safe and wanting all of our places, hospitals and hotels and universities, to just be really thoughtful about what we do.
And I think you have to be an expert in asking questions. I'm an expert at asking questions. I always say, my job is I can go throughout my entire business for a week and not really do too much. Everybody else is doing it. But then all of a sudden we'll have a meeting and I'll ask a question that no one has an answer to. And I get off the phone and I was like, yes, I just justified my paycheck. Because I asked a question that really smart people didn't have an answer to.
Yeah.
So our jobs as leaders or managers in any environment is to ask a question. And you have to get the experts. If you're not dealing with experts, we don't know. Like, so you ask me the UV light, I can give you this much information. But I want to go to the people that make the UV lights, and I want to go to where are those UV lights being used? Are you being used in hospitals, in surgery? Why? Why are you using them in air handlers? Why? Like, does it work? I just ask questions until people get annoyed with me.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to learn. And that's the way to find the place to do the thing so that we don't have the problem down the line, right?
Questions from the audience besides you asking questions? Anybody?
I don't know. Yeah. If you guys have some questions, a couple of those did come from the audience, but if you have some other questions, I would love to field those. We will be doing more meetings over the coming months as this develops and we figure out what's working and what's not. And we hear more about you, from you guys about where you are, and what you should be doing. So Anthony, I would say the closing, point for you is, I think I know the answer because I think you've said this to me, but what is the most important thing for schools to be doing between now and a fall open?
Let people know you don't have all the answers, but you're going to get the answers. And so what does that mean? When you look at a classroom, okay, that student is leaving that classroom. You had everybody social separated, and now another class is coming in. Maybe you're saying people should wear masks. So everybody's wearing masks and everybody's social separated. But do you know that that desk, whether it be wood, metal, whatever it is contaminated or not contaminated? You don't know that, right? We can't say it's not contaminated. So what do you do to make that person coming in the room visual cue that was clean? I don't know the answer to that question. I know if it was my school, I would try to figure out a budget, even though it's a really big budget probably. Like every single person walking in that room will know that desk was just clean, that room was just clean. That to me is the number one way you do it. Okay, number two way you do it is you do it through chemicals. Once it's clean during, maybe in the morning, then somehow it's bonded, and I explain that to my students through visual cues or through a conversation or through social media. The number one thing that we have to do is we have to tell people that is clean, that desk is clean, we are going to social separate it. The rest is up to you guys. You want to go and hang out with your friends and be 12 people on top of each other when we're telling you we want you separated in the dorms, and then all of a sudden everybody's in one room? We can't prevent you from doing that. Okay, we're not going to go and we're not going to make your life miserable. This is a team effort. Okay, team effort.
Let's not get in the business of policing. We're not policing our students in terms of now you have to go home because there were 12 of you.
One of the things, but I would also have testing. I would also have antibody tests. I would also have temperature checks, all those things. And then I would have a chart in my office every single day, and I would look at that chart. And I would say on the first day of class, if we had 12 people that had antibodies, or we had 12 people with temperatures, I'd be like, okay, how many the next day? And all those people away, and how many people were how many people were they in touch with? So you have to become, as the administrator of the school, you've got to have people with the answers. I would be charting the entire school without letting everybody know. And then if it became a problem, I can then go to parents, I can go to students and say, listen, we've done our best, but we seem to have a problem. And now we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
So wishing things away, I'm not a big wisher away of things. I'm just not. I just rather just rip the root out and tell people bad news. Listen, people are okay with bad news. Okay. If you have to say, hey, we have a spike at the school or we have a problem at the school, people are okay with that. Don't hide it, because that's the quickest way to get in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to track it and you have to pay attention. I want my temperature to be checked when I get on the plane. I want it checked. I want, like when you go in the Wynn Hotel, there's a guy behind a planter with a really nice suit on, and there's a machine that's checking my temperature as I walk in. I want that. I don't want to walk into the Cosmopolitan where they're not checking temperatures.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the summary of our time together today is, first of all, it is a problem that we have to solve, and we are working to solve it now. Now is the time to be thoughtful, to make good decisions, to talk to experts, to decide what are our plans. We have to communicate that really clearly to parents and to students, to set expectations for what it's going to look like if we have a fall open. Also, we have to be setting things up so that naturally people are doing the right thing. They're naturally distancing. They're naturally cleaning because we've put those wipes around.
And I think it's
also monitoring.
Have fun with it. Get the most creative people on your team, and they don't have to be the highest paid or the most important as far as title, but get the most creative people on your team and have fun with it. Make it a fun video. Make it, again, we're not making fun of it. We're not making fun of, I lost one of my dearest friends in the world to it, that lives literally 10 feet from my house. So we're not saying make light of it. We're not saying make fun of it, but have fun with our new normal. Don't be so, don't just have fun with it. Whether the mascot gets involved, but I was just on the phone with, not the phone, but an interview with the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer of Margaritaville. In Margaritaville, in all their resorts, they're talking about washing your hands and masks, but they're doing it in a Margaritaville kind of way. They're using the lyrics of songs. They're using different things to incorporate their brand. So don't lose your brand.
Yeah.
Your university has a brand, your college has a brand. Don't lose that brand. Incorporate your brand into the new, and I hate to say the new normal, but into this environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Anthony, I am excited to continue this conversation with you over the next couple of months as we learn more and we develop more and we figure out what things are actually going to look like in the fall. I know our clients and attendees are going to be really happy to continue to send questions. We have this bit.ly that if you have questions that you want us to answer in the future, please send them here. You can send them directly to me, and we'll just continue to learn and process what needs to happen for our parents and our students and our campuses.
And I will tell you this, I sit on the board of a veterinarian clinic. I sit on the board of my university, and I have the #1 show in hospitality with all the players right now, every day on LinkedIn and Facebook, coming on live, whether it be the CIO, the COO, the CFO of all these major brands, Marriott, Hilton, Virgin, coming on and telling us what they're doing. So I'm literally seeing everything from animals to students to guests in hotels and employees in hotels of what people are doing. So I'm literally getting this thing. Every second I'm learning something else, and I'm very in tune to it. So please ask me your questions, and I will tell you what people are doing, and whether it works for you or doesn't, I will tell you what's out there.
Awesome. So more to come about that schedule, but thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let us know how we can serve you in the future. Have a great day.